Hello from my kitchen. It's the Lady Laughs a Lot, Barbara. Since my channel is really about journaling, that is my obsession, I wanted to share with you something a little different. I love my art journals, but I also use journals for practical things, like planning for meal prep and how to organize my recipes, and even better yet, how to organize the groceries that you buy and which recipes did they belong to. Journaling helps me with that. So I wanted to share, because who knows, maybe something that I do could help you as well. I'm even going to set up chapters and everything, woo, so that you can just jump to different things in the timeline. All right, so before you even start chopping or stirring or cooking for your meal prep, there's the planning that goes behind that. The first part of this video is going to set up a system. This way, every week when you go to plan your meals, it'll be organized and it'll go smoother. At least that's what happened for me. So first off, it's all about the recipes, right? Without recipes, you can't plan the rest of your week. Even if it's like a bulk cook type of recipe where on one day you're cooking a bunch of food so that you can adapt it for the rest of the week. You have to find that recipe, right? And in this day and age, there's so many places to source your recipes. It's not just your mother's cookbook anymore. How do you organize all those recipes that you might find in all these different places? Did you see a video on YouTube? Did you read a blog somewhere and find the recipe on someone's blog? Did you find one on Pinterest? Did your sister send you a photo of a recipe? Did someone in your family hand you a recipe? Maybe it's a traditional recipe your grandmother made. Did you go old school and find it in a magazine or a cookbook? Did you get a text? Maybe it was an email. By the way, do you have a favorite place that you source your recipes from? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Maybe I'll find a new place to get recipes from. All thanks to you. Most times these days, I just do a Google search. I'll start with whatever food I have on hand and do a Google search for recipes using that food. But that search will lead you down the rabbit hole. So here's a little tip for planning meals. I happen to belong to one of these meal delivery companies. I don't always order from them. I skip a lot of weeks, but it gives me a point of reference to scroll through what they're offering me for the week to come up with ideas on my own for what to make myself for the week, and I source my own ingredients at my local grocery store. Regardless of where we find our recipes, we're going to wind up with a whole bunch that needs to be organized. So of course, you know this already, we need to break them down into categories. I'll share some of my categories with you, just to give you an idea. Some of my categories I break down by food. Is it a vegetable? Is it a protein? Is it a grain? If you want to get really crazy, sometimes I'll break down my vegetables based on the type of vegetable, just because I have a favorite. Some of my categories are divided by the equipment. Like I have an Instant Pot, so I have a whole section for pressure cooking. I also love my cast iron pots. You can do great one-pan cooking in cast iron pots. Start on the stove, throw it in the oven. And of course, air frying is a big thing now too. So there's 3 categories right there. Of course, you could always break your categories down too between breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But these, for myself, are just too broad. I would want to break them down further. You could also break the categories down by health concerns, like low cholesterol or diabetic-friendly recipes. And don't forget things like salad dressings, marinades, gravies, sauces, beverages. Nothing like a fun beverage now and again. Look, I built my categories over time, and it's an organic list. It can change over time too. Isn't it great that life can be flexible that way? So maybe you can just start with a couple categories, and you'll find as you work this system, more categories will present themselves to you. All these categories, right? That doesn't seem to be making life easier. It seems to be making life more complicated. What do we do with all these categories, Barbara? No stress. If you're getting to know my channel, you know I'm all about no stress. Laugh a lot. Take a deep breath. So this next section is really about presenting to you all the different platforms that I have saved my recipes on. I use all of them, and you may want to skip this part if you're familiar with all the different platforms that you can find recipes and how to organize them. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of share quickly the platform, how you can possibly organize it, and you tell me if you want me to take one of those and go more in depth and actually show you on screen how you can use, this is obviously the digital option, how to organize on that platform. You let me know and I'll create a whole new video just to show you how to do that. Not everybody is tech savvy, and there is no shame in that. And I also use old school. I have a binder with recipes and different categories too. It all works, and I'm here to help you and try and make things easier. Otherwise, why would I make these videos? Okay, for instance, you find a chef you like on YouTube, or you stumble across a recipe on YouTube that you watch. You can create playlists. So create playlists according to your category. It doesn't cost anything to create a playlist, and you can have more than one. Pinterest. Well, Pinterest is obvious, right? Because the whole platform is about creating boards. But you can also create boards within boards. So I have a recipe board, and within that board, I have created all my categories. Blogs. Okay, you did a search and it led you to somebody's wonderful blog page, and gratefully, most of them have at the top where you can just jump to recipe and it scrolls down, you find this recipe. You can also find, usually at the top where it says jump to recipe, the little Pinterest icon, and you can click on that and save that recipe over to Pinterest. The other option here is to copy and paste. If you don't have Pinterest, copy and paste the URL up in your web browser, copy and paste that and start a document. And which leads me into the next, you can, wherever you save your documents, create different files for each category and save the URLs there with a little description. Because you know, sometimes URLs don't make sense. You know, that's all that gibberish on the top for the website. This is also how I handle, say, an email. If I receive an email from somebody, different things can happen. It could be an attachment. If it's an attachment like a PDF, you could also save that into your documents in new file folders. Create file folders for yourself for each category. If they actually wrote the recipe in the body of your email, just select it, copy, paste it, create a new document for yourself. That's where you would paste it. And again, you're working with files within your documents. Now, just a quick word on emails. I know that in email programs, you can create folders within your emails. You could create categories there if you want, but in my mind, this just creates a whole nother place to have to look for your recipes when you're in search mode. Where did I put that? So I take any recipes that are emailed to me and I save them in my documents somewhere. Texting, most time texts will give you a link. Somebody's texting you a link to a recipe. Not many people would actually, unless it's really short, send you the actual recipe in a text, which you can copy and paste from there too. But if they're sending you a link, you tap on the link, more than likely it goes to a blog. And like I said, you can just tap on the Pinterest link in that person's blog and save it in your categories in Pinterest. How about photos? More than once I've been in a waiting room at a doctor's office, leafing through a magazine, and rather than tear the page out, I grab my phone and I snap a picture of a recipe. There are so many online digital photo apps out there right now that in this case I created albums for myself. Again, the albums are free to create and each album is listed by category. Let's not forget old school. I have a binder. It's a thick binder at this point, but whether I've ripped things out of magazines or it's something written on a good old-fashioned piece of paper, I have some recipes there that have been handed down to me that I just don't want to get rid of because, family nostalgia. Old school is easy, right? A recipe card box is not going to do it because so many recipes come in so many different shapes and sizes. So a binder and sheet protectors and tabs to create categories. I'm going to do a short video that shows how I create extended tabs. It's really easy because when you start working with sheet protectors and you try and use little tab dividers, they're usually shorter than the sheet protector. So you can't find your tabs because the sheet protectors are hiding them. All right, Barbara, I still think you're making this so complicated. Nope. Really, all we've done is we've found recipes and we've saved them in the platforms. Time for the journal bit. The setup is done. This is where the magic happens. I happen to use a Happy Planner. This is the size that I like, and I go with the style that just creates 3 rows. My top row is always for timed appointments. My middle row is for meal planning. My bottom row is for any to-dos that happen to pop up. That's what works for me. My planner friends out there, I know you've got this all worked out already, and it doesn't have to be this style. So wherever you're planning your meals, there's so many options out there. It's great. Sorry, that's the planner, journaler, and me getting excited. Wherever you're planning your meals for the week, this is where the magic is going to happen. Okay, so let's say one of the recipes I want to use, I found it on Pinterest. When I go to my journal and write it in the journal, I make sure to write it by the same title or the same keywords that I found in Pinterest. And that's all I have to do in the journal is just the title and where I've saved it in my category. So if it says balsamic salmon with asparagus, and then in parentheses I'll put Pinterest. Because if you've worked the system right, you'll go over to Pinterest now, and if you saved it in maybe a protein section, a fish section, a salmon section, you'll know to go to Pinterest, open up your salmon section, and be able to find it. And because it's digital, most of these applications have a search feature. So you can go into Search My Pins and put in balsamic salmon, and if you've copied the same as the title, search balsamic salmon. The recipe's called balsamic salmon. You do the search, usually finds it for you, so you don't have to do a lot of scrolling. Here's the other thing I do to make finding your groceries later to match your recipe. Sometimes I open up my refrigerator and go, okay, I know I bought that cabbage for a recipe, but which recipe did I buy it for? Next to where I write cabbage, when I need cabbage, let's say that I plan to cook this cabbage recipe on Tuesday. You look at my planner, they were on Tuesday, cabbage recipe. Well, on my shopping list, in parentheses, I put a T for Tuesday. Yeah, well, Barbara, I also need cabbage for another recipe on Friday. Okay, so on your shopping list, cabbage, you're going to have a T and an F. okay? If you're ever in that situation where you open the refrigerator and you see a vegetable and you think, what was that for? You just have to go back to your planner, the shopping list, cabbage, oh, it's got a T or an F next to it, and look at those days and see which recipe it's being used for. This always helps out if you happen to see the cabbage and you want to make something else and go, wait, wasn't that for a recipe? Maybe I shouldn't use it. Okay, so you've planned your week. You've gone shopping. You've bought the stuff. It's put away. Yay! The other thing that I do for myself is I happen to have a magnet right here on my refrigerator that just lists 7 days of the week. Nice, big, empty spaces. And there I can write whatever I want. It doesn't have to be the exact title as I saved it in the category, unless you want to. But this gives me a bird's eye view so that the night before, I know if I have to defrost something. It's just a quick look. Oh, tomorrow we're using ground meat. I better go take it out of the freezer so it can thaw for tomorrow. I got myself a meat and potatoes kind of guy, you know what I mean? So an old school method that actually led me up to this is I actually used to use a notebook, and I used to plan out probably 2 weeks, more than a week. But as I was finding recipes and knowing I needed ingredients, instead of days of the week, I left it open and variable. As long as I have the ingredients in the house, I can cook whichever recipe I want on whatever day. With this long list of ingredients and long list of recipes to cook on whatever day, instead of using the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday in parenthesis next to the ingredients, I would just give it a letter. Don't use numbers because you might confuse it with quantity, although I don't know why you would need 20 pieces of cabbage. Pieces of cabbage? I used letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I used that next to the ingredients. Really, I feel like those letters are more important in the opposite direction, because once you pull up the recipe and you're looking at how to make it, it's going to show you the ingredients. But for me, it really is always about, I have this ingredient in my inventory and I don't remember why. With that little code next to it, it'll direct you back to the recipe. That's why those little codes help. So while I'm in the process of planning my week and have my planner and I'm looking at recipes and I'm writing down ingredients, I always have my Alexa unit close. So I'm usually shouting audibles as I'm doing the process. So rather than creating a list and then trying to get it into my app, Alexa app, I'm doing it in real time as part of the process. And if you're totally digital, a lot of these shopping list apps that you use have a place for a description. So you can write a description in there with your little code for what recipe it is for. I mean, even if it doesn't have a description, if you put cabbage in the shopping list, you could put a little parentheses next to it and your little code. Whatever works. Okay, here's another tip for you. And this is in those moments where I don't have a recipe. I just want to make something. And I know what I have in the refrigerator. I have a little notebook where I have listed proteins. So 1 page pork, 1 page chicken, beef. You get the idea. You know what a protein is. And if you're vegan and you have certain vegan proteins, this will work too. I list the favorite recipes, the recipes that are tried and true and have worked for me before. So under chicken, I'll have all the different chicken recipes that I know and like and usually can make by heart. This way, if I'm looking for an idea of something to eat that day and don't have a recipe, I can just go through there and go, oh yeah, remember that? Now, of course, you'd want to use it like an index because, okay, you have under the chicken, oh, chicken cacciatore recipe. Wait, where's that recipe? Because I don't have it in my meal plan for this week. I don't have a little code next to it. Sure you do. When you create this list under the protein, write Pinterest, YouTube, My Documents. Just remember to use the same title as the title that's saved on that platform. Phew. Guys, the system works for me, and I really broke it down to be simple for myself. Creating this video seemed complicated because I have to show you the steps along the way. But really, if you can get this down, meal planning can be easier for the week. And look, I don't use it all the time, but the times I don't, I'm more frustrated in the kitchen because I'm not the person who wants to be in the kitchen. The kitchen's not my studio. For some people, cooking is their studio. My studio, it's my art studio. So in the weeks that I don't plan, I can get a little frustrated. And that's really what motivates me to actually get it done so that I can be prepared, cook the meal, get out. Eat and go play back in the studio. Guys, I'm forever just trying to be helpful, giving you reasons to laugh at life and to laugh a lot. Life can be hard. There can be colorful blessings thrown your way, and we got to be able to laugh at them one creative idea at a time. As always, guys, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate the time that you spend watching me. Until next time, bye.